Thank you very much. You've already been told my name. It's Aman Zaidi. You've already been told what I do. I'm a strengths coach and a learning and development consultant. Basically, what I do is I help individuals and organizations become more successful. But that's what I do today. When I was in school, I had a hard time being successful. I was called what is known as a struggling student, a poor student. And I would usually stand fourth in class in a class strength of 4. That's the 4 of us. That's me, head full of hair. That's me now, with all the wisdom and experience that I've accumulated in my head, having pushed the hair out. But school wasn't all bad. I did end up getting elected school captain by my fellow students, which just goes to show that you can succeed in politics even if you're not good at anything else. When I was in school, what I found really, really meaningful and joyful was people. I loved the opportunity to be among people, to interact with them, talk to them, listen to them. But the school system does not recognize people talent. It is meant to measure success in math and science. So while I was interested in people, what I was being asked to do was sit down and focus on the subjects that were being taught in class. Naturally, I struggled. I was labeled inattentive, distracted, disruptive, lazy. And well, academically, school wasn't all that great. My self-esteem did take a little beating, but I was saved by the fact that there was no parental pressure to do well at academics. My mom, she took note of my strengths and my talents and pointed them out to me repeatedly. It helped that I did well in debating, elocution, general knowledge quizzes that the school held. Some of this helped shore up my self-esteem. The school also took part in a nationwide IQ test in which I did reasonably well, quite well as a matter of fact. So it wasn't that I hadn't got the brains, it was just that the areas in which I had talent were not recognized by the school system. All of this changed once I started my career. After I'd been working for a few years, I realized that there were roles which required me to interact with people, to listen to them, to help them. The role of a team manager. This is a role that I did well in. It's a role that I enjoyed. It got to the point where people would walk up to me from other teams and they would say, hey, we've heard about your team, we want to be on your team. I'd basically built up the reputation of being a manager who was calm, fun, and who loved developing his people. But trouble was around the corner. I was ambitious, and I accepted promotion after promotion until one day I found myself designated head of operations with a handsome salary, but no motivation to go into work. This was strange, because till now I'd really enjoyed my job. So I had to sit myself down and ask myself, what's gone wrong? I realized that till now the roles I'd been performing had to do with people. I had to focus on people, their well-being, on their performance, and on helping them get better. And now I was in a role which was about numbers, projects, deadlines, stuff that I had no natural enthusiasm for. As a result of which, I just didn't look forward to going into work. I came to the conclusion that if I was to have a successful and an enjoyable career, it had to be in roles that carried some meaning for me, that I felt energized by. Because if I spent time in roles that were not energizing to me, then I would feel distracted, demotivated, and this was not going to be a sustainable career. A few years later, I realized that my conclusions were actually supported by a field called strength psychology, which said that all of us have some qualities that we feel energized by and other qualities that we feel de-energized by. So strength psychology says that the qualities that energize us, those that bring us joy, that seem easy or natural to us, these are called our strengths. And those qualities that drain us of our energy, those that we struggle with, and those that seem unnatural to us are called our non-strengths. I learned that my strengths were things such as building relationships, developing others. And I learned that my non-strengths were things such as focusing, thinking, planning. So naturally, if I was ever stuck in roles like that, I lacked the motivation, and I would run towards those roles which had something to do with people. So the first point I want to leave you with today is that strengths are the difference between mediocrity and excellence. I can be a mediocre project manager, or a mediocre financial analyst, or I can be an excellent people leader, or an excellent coach and facilitator. Imagine the nurse who is not energized by compassion. Imagine a teacher who isn't energized by developing others. Imagine their state of mind when they perform their roles, and imagine the impact they have on their job. If you feel that you're struggling in your role right now, it may well be because you're performing a role that is not in line with your natural strengths. And this is not new. Over 60 years ago, the famed management guru Peter Drucker, he said this: essentially, what he's saying is, you're going to take all this energy, all this time, all this effort, and you're going to invest it in going from low competence to average? Wouldn't it be better if you took all that time and effort and energy and motivation and invested it in going from good to excellent? So strengths are the difference between mediocrity and excellence. The second point I want to leave you with today is that strengths contribute to our well-being and mental health. Let me share with you how I discovered that. A couple of years earlier, I thought that I'd become reasonably good at coaching and facilitating, but I wanted to become better at my job. So I decided I should add a new skill. And the skill I zeroed in on was designing better workshops. So I went to my teacher and I told him, look, there's an upcoming workshop, I want your help in designing it. And he said, you're going to have to be committed and work hard without complaining. And I said, sure. After all, hard work is the way to become better at something, right? We'll find out. So I spent the next 3 days steeped in the process of designing a workshop. It involved thinking, creating, assessing, evaluating, rethinking, recreating. At the end of 3 days, when my teacher told me that the design looked good to go, I thought I'd feel good. Instead, what I felt was as if somebody had sucked the life force out of my body. I felt as if every ounce of my energy had been drained from me. I felt depressed. But I had a workshop to start, so I dragged myself to it, and I spent the next 2.5 days facilitating that workshop, interacting with people, answering their questions, helping them arrive at insights. At the end of the 2.5 days, I found that my energy had been restored. I felt better. Raise your hand if you've experienced something like that. I can't see your hands anyway. But this doesn't only happen to you and me. About a year ago, the founder of a startup, she came to me for some coaching, and she revealed that she had recently noticed that she had no energy to get anything done anymore. There were a lot of items on her plate, but she just couldn't get to it. So I put her through a strengths assessment, and we looked at the results, and we found that she had been spending too much time working on her non-strength areas. Remember, non-strengths are those things that drain you of your energy. Strengths are the things that replenish that energy for you. So she'd been spending every day working on her non-strength areas. And she'd been ending each day at an energy deficit. done over months, this had actually led to her feeling burnt out. Through the process of coaching, she realized that what she needed to do was work more on her strength areas and delegate some of the non-strength work to a team. Right? Now, these feelings are fairly universal these days. They're not uncommon. And I've discovered that working on your weaknesses, slaving away at your weaknesses, is actually bad advice. Peter Drucker, Marcus Buckingham, James Brooke, Paul Brewerton, experts in this field, they've been saying it for years. It's a mistake to believe that you can slave away at a weakness and one day excel at it. Actually, what happens is it drains you of your natural energy and enthusiasm to a point where life becomes meaningless. Instead, if you work in your strength areas, what happens is that you gain energy. You feel a sense of flow. You actually feel charged up. And these are the things that you need in order to become excellent. So apart from excellence and apart from mental well-being, there are two other reasons to focus on strengths. Strengths lead to high-performing organizations. I know some leaders in corporates who are essentially private people. They would much rather perform roles with respect to creating products or art or design or crunching numbers or writing algorithms. But they're in people-facing roles. And as a result of which, they procrastinate or delay or entirely avoid the people-facing aspect. And as a result of which, they become ineffective in these roles. A strengths-based organization will take these people and allow them to do roles related to number crunching or creating design or art or products or to write code. And it will give roles of people leaders to people who are enthused by that. That will give every individual in the organization a chance to become excellent, thereby driving the whole organization and making it a high-performing organization. The fourth point I want to leave you with today is this. All of humanity has this one struggle. Do I do what I want to do, or do I do what I'm being asked to do? Whether you're a child or an adult, whether you're a student or a professional, we all have this dilemma. Should I do what is naturally meaningful to me, what calls to me, or should I do what the world is asking of me? Abraham Maslow said that self-actualization, discovering what is meaningful to me and doing more of that and becoming that. Self-actualization, Maslow said, was something which was the pinnacle need among all human beings. Strengths allow us to discover what is energizing and meaningful to us, and if we do it, we become that. So strengths are the way to self-actualization. Now, there are some challenges that exist in organizations and in academic institutions also, I'm assuming, right? People are actually struggling with issues such as engagement, motivation, performance, and mental health, etc. And a lot of these challenges, I'm going to invite you to look at the studies. These are the four things, right? So look at these studies. One in America found that 7% and more children had struggled with anxiety. Over 3% had struggled with depression. In India, a study among employees found that 80% plus had struggled with anxiety, 55% had actually struggled with depression. This is a pandemic that has a higher impact rate than COVID. A lot of this happens because we prioritize achievement over well-being. And I say that it's time that we disrupted our institutions. How long are we going to be content to be mere service providers, mere centers of profit making? Isn't it a more worthy goal to become centers of human flourishing? Isn't it a more worthy goal to create individuals that can thrive in life? So I'm going to urge you to aspire to be institutions and create systems which are more inclusive of the strengths and talent diversity that exists in humanity. Every student, every professional has a bunch of different strengths, and if we ask them to choose only from 2 or 3 streams or professions, we are not allowing them to blossom and become who they can really be. I'm going to invite you to give them more options in line with their strengths, right? So that what can happen is that apart from just having a career stream available to them when they graduate or when they go out in the world, they also have the skills to be happy, healthy, and well in life, to flourish in life. Here's how that can be achieved. 1, start doing strengths assessments with every child over the age of 10, which is around the time people's strengths start getting formed and eventually get solidified later on. Encourage students and professionals to spend time in the areas of strength and look for career streams related to those. Put all teachers and professionals through strengths assessments too, so that they can understand the language and the underlying principles and apply them well. And get the top leadership of your organizations to work with strengths consultants, so that for your organization, a strength strategy can be developed and executed. Of course, we can continue to use the updated method if you want, which is around fixing people's weaknesses, in which case I'm actually going to leave you with a quote from Coach Dan Sullivan, who said, "If you spend your life working on your weaknesses, at the end of your life, you're going to have very strong weaknesses." I wish you will build strength-based lives for yourselves and others. Thank you.